Okay, thank you. Right, good morning everybody and welcome to the final Children's and Young People and Skills Committee overview and scrutiny for the 2021 municipal year. Can I just make an observation at the beginning, please? Kath Scott, my Vice Chair, has had to go off very urgently to deal with some issues, so she may or may not be in the meeting. Unfortunately, I may also have to leave with pretty well no notice, depending on if I get a phone call or not. So if this does happen, I'm hoping it doesn't happen, in my absence and disappearance, would it be agreeable, please, if I could nominate Councillor Celia Loughran to take over in my place at very short notice, please? Hopefully this won't arise, but obviously we have to be aware of that as a possibility. So is everybody happy with that arrangement? I'll take silence as acceptable. Okay, right. So Celia, just be aware you might get called on. Right, so the final meeting. Can I say first of all a fond farewell to Councillor Loughran and to Councillor Stokes, which will be their last meetings, and I thank them very much for their support and attendance over this period of time. I know we've had some challenges over certainly the last 12 months, but certainly things are as rigorous now as they were before last March. So certainly I would like to thank them for their partaking. Monica Graham is obviously still in absentia, but I would hope obviously she may well be able to come back at some point in the near future. Can I say as well, please, that you may be aware of in the media of a large amount of concerns has been expressed about things that may have gone on, things that have gone on in schools and that as in colleges and other places. And there is a website called Everybody's Invited. Can I suggest that if you get a chance, that it may very well be worthwhile you having a look into this website? I looked at it on Monday and again on Tuesday, and I was horrified at some of the things I had read in there about some of the experiences of young people. And so as a result of that, I did have a conversation with Beate on Tuesday, and there will be a slight alteration to the agenda to take account of things that will be said by with regards to how we as an authority will respond to that. But I've also noticed that last night that the government has also instructed Ofsted to also take note of this. So I'm pleased to say that yes, we are also very aware of this, and we are taking steps to make sure that we have got everything in place. But Beate and others will be saying a little bit more about that in the during the morning. So there has been various meetings take place, but there's nothing really in terms of feedback from those meetings. Can we have any apologies, please, Karen?
Yeah, I've got Councillor Kitchen and co-opted members Stuart Piper, Reverend Robertson, Monica Graham, Keith Garforth and Usman Ali. Right,
you better add Councillor Catherine Scott onto that list as well, please, Karen.
Yeah, will do.
Okay. Right. Are there any declarations of interest? Right, I'll take silence as being no for that. So can we go on to agenda item number 4, please, which is the minutes of the Children's, Young People and Skills Committee meeting held on the 4th of March 2021. Of those members who were present at this meeting, would I please can they approve those minutes? I'm not aware of any matters that are arising from those, but if there's any details on agenda page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, and page 7.
Yes, Chair, on page 7.
Yeah.
The reference on the first bullet point to capital maintenance roof replacement scheme update, it's just to note that this item was actually flagged at this scrutiny committee. I'm not sure, two or three meetings ago. Now, at that time, we were told that further information would be brought to the scrutiny committee. I assume the reason why the further information wasn't brought was that behind the scenes the issue was actually a good deal more sensitive than perhaps it appeared on the surface. But could it be that when the dust has settled and the information is clearer, I don't know when that's going to be, that information will actually come forward, Chair?
Yes, Kevin, it will. I have had a number of conversations about this matter, and obviously, as you'll probably be aware of the leaders' comment in the council meeting last week, that's the situation where it is at the moment. It is being investigated, and obviously, as and when it's appropriate, reports will be fed both into ourselves and into the council.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, right. If that is the only issue that's arising, can I have those minutes approved, please?
Could I move the minutes, Chair? Sure.
Thank you, Stuart.
Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Stuart. Okay, there are no urgent items, so if we go on to agenda item 6, which is the improvement plan quarterly update, there is a PowerPoint presentation from Beate Wagner, who is the Corporate Director, Children and Young People, to give an update on the latest progress. The report includes in the agenda papers gives details of the main areas of improvement and the recent service developments. There is to be a PowerPoint presentation, Beate, so can I invite you, please, to take over? Thank you, Beate.
Chair, can I just a slight problem? My chat isn't working, so if I need to ask a question, it's difficult to inform you.
Okay. Do you want to text me, Andy?
I will do, yeah, thanks.
Can I just check that people can see the first slide?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. You have got the report providing an update. This is our usual quarterly update on children's improvement actions and progress made. And I've just put some highlights into this PowerPoint presentation just to briefly take you through, but I know members have also had a chance to read this. So you'll remember that our overall improvement plan contained 35 projects. Most of those projects have now either been completed, while 100% are well progressed or completed. So if you have a look at the that pie chart, gold, blue and green are various stages of completion. So green is completed, blue is completed and well embedded, and gold is business as usual. So 20% are amber E, where the progress has been made, but we're not yet signing it off because we want more evidence that it's embedded. So overall, the improvement board agreed that the program rating could move to green as basically progressed. What the program board also asked for is for this current improvement plan, given its rate of completion, to be closed down and a new improvement plan to be developed, which looks at areas that still require focus. So there may be some that are in the 20% currently that would be rolled forward if they haven't turned green by then. And there might also be actions that have arisen as a result of further learning from the current focus visit or from new issues arising. And that improvement plan will be presented to the Improvement Board at its April meeting on the 14th of April. So the next time I update this committee, I will update further on the new improvement plan and key priorities and for, the progress against it. You'll know that our key achievements are badged under the 3 headings that are also used by Ofsted, so children in need of help and protection, children in care and leadership. This slide just shows you a few of the significant milestones reached in terms of our improvement plan around help and protection. So, for example, significant progress in terms of attendance now at strategy discussions. They are the first discussions that take place when there is a concern about potential harm to children. They're always multi-agency, so they need to include social care, health and police, and really encouraging. They're now really well attended, both by council staff and by partners. Maybe the other one to highlight is that case file audits, which are the audits Vicky will talk a little bit about in the when we talk about the vital sign report. The quality of assessments are improving, and now inadequate assessments now found in the case file audits. Maybe just to draw your attention briefly to the last bullet point, which is the really good attendance of children in the district at school compared to statistical neighbours and others, particularly children with a social worker and education, health and care plans. Some of our progress around children in care and care leavers, probably the most promising, the most pleasing progress made in terms of our numbers of children who are now achieving permanence. So children who achieve adoptions or who are permanently secured in special guardianship arrangements. So where the council can step back because family members or adopters have stepped forward to take over full parental responsibility for children who used to be children in care. It's a really important part of the work we do, and really helps those children to experience as normal a life as possible in positive family placements. Really good progress also in terms of our sufficiency of placements. So we've still recruited foster carers throughout the pandemic, and in fact have reached the targets we set ourselves, not knowing there would be a pandemic. And one of the issues Ofsted commented positively on, the way we have continued to increase our foster care placements. Maybe just also highlighting Mockingbird. Mockingbird is a very particular model of running, of arranging fostering placements through mutual support, through a support carer who is a hub carer, and then a number of other foster carers as spokes to that, who can all draw on the hub carer for support if it's required. And we're hoping that will enable us to return some of the children who are currently still in out of authority placements, some of them in residential placements, actually to return to the district into family placements. In terms of strategic leadership, Ofsted have been pleased with the progress we've made around Wakefield Families Together as a way of working that's very much trying to deliver earlier help, provide support to schools and others who are supporting children and young people at a lower level so that problems don't escalate. And you will know that way of working has now been operational since January, and certainly feedback provided is that it's going from strength to strength. We have also we're in the process of procuring a research partner to work with us to evaluate the impact that the Wakefield Families Together programme under the newly recruited Service Director for Health and Wellbeing will have in terms of integrating ourselves much more closely with health and emotional wellbeing services. People might also like to know that the implementation of Liquid Logic is going well. I know it was one of our key concerns and one of elected members' key concerns to make sure that we have an electronic record system that's fit for purpose, that allows us to understand our performance well, cuts out bureaucracy and enables our staff to have a good tool to work with. We are hoping, subject to all the usual checks and data runs, that we will be going live with that early in June. And just maybe just make a point of the last bullet point as well, how well our staff have continued to in terms of the timeliness of their visits, the timeliness of decision making, despite the pandemic. And you'll probably remember that almost all of our visits, certainly from social work visits, where have been face to face. These are just some of the highlights of our current focus of improvement to make sure that again, there are some areas that we may feel we're not quite there yet, or we want to refocus our efforts. Re-referrals, you will know, we've discussed regularly as part of the Vital Signs report, continues to be a focus, and we'll be able to report on some more recent successes there, but until we feel that we've really bottomed that out and performing well, that will continue to be our focus. We want to do more work on PEPs, the way we now have a system, an electronic system that can be accessed jointly by schools, social workers and our virtual schools. And we're working on making the most of that to make sure that our PEPs are really ambitious for our young people. And further work to do around care leavers. A lot of work taking place at the moment, both in terms of the service, corporately and with our partners, to make sure that our offers to care leavers is really good. These are some of the key developments to highlight for you. You will know that there is a cabinet report going to the April cabinet, which will ask for permission to progress with the development of 3 youth hubs in the district, specifically focusing on 16 to 24-year-olds, but not exclusively on 16 to 24-year-olds. But the new offer for this particular age group will be a much more aligned and streamlined access to opportunities around apprenticeship skills, higher education, advice and guidance, really drawing on what other council services are already providing as part of Step Up, as part of our leisure and arts offer, but making that particularly accessible to young people, as well as giving young people safe places to go and activities, proactive and constructive activities to do. Really, that those are all areas that have been highlighted through our BOF Build Our Futures groups and our young people's voice as something that young people really want and need us to progress on. Just highlighting that local area partnerships been awarded the Youth Justice Send Quality Kite Mark, so really positive the responses to our young people who may start to I suppose come into contact with police, or potentially on the edge of criminal activity with special educational needs, and our response to those and our support to those really being recognised there. And also highlighting how well we've worked together as a partnership to respond to COVID-19. Again, this committee has had previous reports on that. And just a few of our next steps. Every local authority has an annual conversation with Ofsted. It's part of the inspection framework. The purpose is really to look at all of the information, particularly performance information, auditing and quality information, any other information Ofsted access about us, and we include in our self-assessment, to really talk about those, analyse those, and give some feedback to local authorities. But from Ofsted's perspective, also helping them make a judgment about where they think local authorities are, and I suppose eventually to feed into their decision making around timing of inspection. So ours took place on the 11th of March. We were told that we're unlikely to require any further monitoring visits. I think Ofsted gave us positive feedback on both our self-assessment and our performance, and really felt that what we had demonstrated is that the things we were doing were delivering improvements, and what they would be expecting to do is for their next intervention with the authority to be a full inspection. Now we're guessing about autumn winter, because Ofsted will never tell us when inspections might be, so we may or may not be right with that, but just to give committee members some sort of potential timescales on when that might be. And that is the end of my quick run through and highlight, and I'm hoping that I've stopped presenting and you can no longer see my presentation.
The screen has gone blank, Beate.
Okay, thank you.
Right, that's a very positive end to the presentation, and also to the municipal year. And I think so, certainly, given the journey that has been undertaken over the last, what's come up to 3 years now, it has certainly seen significant changes. And when I sort of reflect back on some of the key, if you like, staging points, some of the key changes, it certainly has been an incredible journey. I know it's not at the end of it all. It may even be that we've only got the end of the first lap, but certainly in terms of the sort of comments that are being made, and I think it's always important, I think from Ofsted's perspective, is when they're looking at an organisation such as ours, they're sort of saying, does the leadership have the capacity, does the leadership have the vision, and does the management team also have the, if you like, the view of being able to know where to intervene. And I think clearly, by the simple fact now that they've said there isn't need any more monitoring visits, they are clear that's a big plus for your leadership, BRT, and the team. So can I thank you and your team, and can you please convey my thanks, and obviously this committee's thanks, to your team for all the work that has been done, and of course all the work that's about to come. So thank you all very much for that.
Thank you, and I will do that.
Yeah, thank you, Beate, because I know exactly how hard you've all been working. It's been a real journey. Can I ask, though, before, I know I've got questions from Andy Tagger and from Celia. Two things. First of all, what exactly have been the issues around PEPs?
The personal education plans?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that, I suppose we've set up the virtual school, didn't we?
Yes.
About 12 months ago now, and that was a real change from the way we were working, or sort of having children in care as part of a much wider remit, to a real focus now that the virtual school to children in care. So we've had Jackie Rope, as you'll know, as our head of the virtual schools, done a lot of work to develop that. And part of that was to implement a new way of recording that, a new way of working, which gives social workers a much greater input into personal education plans. But I think that Jackie would also say real opportunity to improve quality and ambition, and for the role of the virtual school really to be the challenger around that and the promoter of that quality. I think what we would say is that we implemented most of that in round about April time, coinciding with the onset of the pandemic, and I think that might have been a little bit overambitious in terms of people being able to adjust ways of working, both in terms of the general way of responding to the pandemic and of implementing a new way of doing PETs, whilst schools were also operating in a very different way and were in lockdown or only restricted attendance for parts of that. So I think this is really about now taking that forward and being able to focus much more on both completion rates, which we're making significant progress on, but also on a real focus on quality. Vicky might want to add to that because she's possibly been a little bit closer to the practice in that respect.
Yeah, there were a couple of things, David, in that we implemented lots of new ways of working, as Beata's explained, but also that coincided, unfortunately, with the beginning of the pandemic and children being out of school, and that first sort of home working arrangement for teaching staff and children. So we did have a time where PEP completion was pretty low. That has increased significantly. I think we're around 70 to 80% now. In terms of timeliness, but again, we want to push that up. We want to get better with that. But it is now, as Beata says, about working on quality and ambition and aspiration as well. So one of the things you'll see in the quality assurance reports going forward is that PEPs are going to be consistently quality assured, and we'll also have a moderation process as well for some of those. So we'll be able to talk more about that, I guess, in forthcoming months.
Oh, good. That's very positive, that, because clearly that is one of the key indicators for the children in care, in order to ensure that they are able to improve their educational attainment and all the other support that goes into that. I've also noticed, now I don't know whether this may well be a bit of a curved question at this point in time, that the DFE is changing the way in which pupil premium money is going to be allocated, and it's going to be much more closely tied to performance. Is that likely to have any impact on how this programme works, or is that an unfair question at this point?
I suppose it's probably a little bit early to be able to comment. We're not particularly anticipating it'll have a major impact. I think at the moment the way we're working is well understood and well agreed, and the implementation plan is well agreed. So I don't see that yet, but obviously we'll keep an eye on that.
Right, thanks so much for that. And I am absolutely delighted to read the comment about the introduction of the youth hubs, because I think that is such an important development for our district and for our young people as they're making their journey through into adulthood. I think it's a really positive step forward, that, so I'm really pleased to see that, and obviously we will be interested to see how that progresses over the near future. Okay, that's enough from me. Andy Tagger, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to explain, for some reason I've got a different screen and I didn't see the presentation, and the comments has only just now opened up for me, but that's just a basic thing there. A couple of questions, Beata, if I may. One is, there was a report really recently, I think, from the Children's Society, that's warning that there are thousands of children of EU citizens who've been taken into care who may become undocumented adults because there's apparently a deadline coming up about 3 months. And I don't know whether that has there's any problem with regard to our district in terms of that. That's the first question. And the second one is regarding the Mockingbird model that you were talking about. But it does seem as a very positive model, but it does seem that there are some challenges in terms of finding sufficient skilled people to work within that. and the fact that it does have an extra impact upon carers in different ways. And I just wondered whether you've got any observations about how that is going to be rolled out and whether that might cause some complications. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I'll let Vicky answer that. Clearly, she wants to come in, and then if I have any additional comments to make, I could do that at the end. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. So on the EU nationals in care, Andy, we have been tracking our children who need to go through the processes of being becoming British citizens, being registered in this country, and we've done that. So we don't have that risk in Wakefield. It's pretty small numbers of children, but we've been working closely with the national process, and that's been completed for our children. On the Mockingbird issue, you are right actually that when these arrangements are put in place, very often the thing that's a challenge is finding those people that we call the hub carer. So they are the carers who support and mentor and coach the what we call constellation or cluster of other carers, and we work in clusters of about 8 to 10 carers. So those hub carers are actually looking after and supporting a number of other between 8 and 10 foster carers and the associated children that they look after. But we've been pretty successful actually in Wakefield. We've recruited one hub carer already for our constellation that went live in January, and we've got a potential further 3 hub carers that we're working with now. So we don't think we're going to be limited, certainly this year, in terms of continuing the rollout of Mockingbird. And those carers are being drawn from either private fostering agencies who are interested in coming over to Wakefield or from within our existing foster carers. So it's working okay for us at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Celia, your comment and question.
Yeah, I just wanted to draw attention to the numbers of children being adopted. And I have to say, I think it's absolutely amazing. That's a real big achievement, you know, and I think a big pat on the back for those people involved. I know it involves an awful lot of people, but that's the first thing I wanted to say, because staff often don't get the praise that's required. But the question I have actually relates to the continuing focusing on particular areas. And it's the first one, which is really just for an explanation. And it, in sort of paragraph 5.6 on the first bullet point, work further with the partnership to make sure that thresholds for children's social care are well understood, specifically around the fact that national police guidance and practice is moving towards all safeguarding related contacts to be referred to multi-agency safeguarding hubs, regardless of the threshold level. I just wondered if you could put some explanation around that. Thank you.
Do you want me to do that one as well, Beata?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Hi, Celia.
Hi.
It's largely this presenting as very high levels of domestic abuse referrals in Wakefield. It's not unusual nationally. The position is that police forces feel that they are required to refer every incident where there is a level of domestic abuse, albeit sometimes very low level in families, to social care services. And what we know, it's really very visible within our data, is that many of those referrals or contacts, as we call them, don't result in any further action from social care services, but may be more appropriate to be shared amongst sort of universal service providers, so that the people that know and work with children already can help and support them if they need it. So it's a conversation really that's ongoing between ourselves and West Yorkshire Police in relation to developing those practices and really enabling police colleagues to sort of use judgment as all other professionals are asked to do, in only referring those issues that really need to be referred to social care services, so that we focus on the right things and don't lose sight of those in and amongst the volume. It is an issue that Ofsted picked up during the last monitoring visit when they were here in November, and those discussions are ongoing.
Right. Thanks very much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Stuart? Your question?
Sorry, Chair. It's item 6, page 10, second bullet point down. It's very similar to Celia's question. At 5.3 I'm on, second bullet point. Attendance of partners at strategy discussions, including colleagues from health, education and the police, is above target most months now. Police attendance at 100% in some months. So does that mean that they have been missing meetings of the police that they should have been attending, or any other services missing meetings for whatever reason? Really the question is, are they police attending, and have they always been attending the meetings they should have been attending? Thank you, Chair.
Hi Stuart, it's Vicky again. We've tracked this pretty regularly throughout the improvement journey, so we've been able to see which of our statutory partners have been attending which meetings for some number of months. So I think the presentation really and rightly celebrates the fact that we're now achieving 100% of attendance from partner agencies at those meetings, but it has been lower than that through the improvement journey. That's been subject of discussion at improvement boards and safeguarding partnership meetings. And I guess some of, just to try and give a sense of the issue, I don't think it's the case that partners and colleagues don't want to engage and just choose not to. There are very many of these discussions that happen sort of day on day and week on week in Wakefield, as in every other sort of district around the country. And sometimes there are issues around things like logistics, for example. So some of the things we've had to do to make it possible for partners to be attending these meetings are just organise them in a way which means that we don't have too many taking place at the same time, if that makes sense. And we've also been really clear, I guess, about role and expectation. We've done lots of things like joint training around these areas of practice, as well as jointly auditing, jointly quality assuring the work that we're doing as a partnership. So it hasn't always been quite as positive as it is now, but it is very positive, this picture now, and it's based on lots of the work that we've done, I think, together to get there. Does that help?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Right, thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Stuart. Can I ask probably more of a general question? When we're looking at the statistics for COVID in our district, we're still approximately 3 times the national average. Is that creating any further issues or ongoing issues for the service, BRT, and obviously through both for children and for adults?
I think the we have managed pretty well to sustain the service. So we have had increases, for example, in incidents in staff reporting sickness absence from as a result of COVID. But we have managed that well, I would say, on the whole. And you will know that as a whole council, we've had arrangements in place to identify priority services where necessary, sort of under some of the peaks of the crisis for people to move round. And I think that's put us in the position we've been in terms of keeping an line of sight on children, that we have continued to be able to perform well. But it has required significant monitoring and arrangements having to be made to secure that where it's been necessary. I think you're on mute, David. I don't know.
Sorry, I am Beate. Thank you for that. Yeah, well spotted. Do you think that has this present situation with COVID brought anything new to your experience and to your team that you hadn't seen before, and therefore having to do things differently or in a new way?
I mean, from my perspective, there are really big learning opportunities for everyone, and just the way we've all stepped up to, having virtual meetings as we do, using the tools at our disposal, much better ways. I think we absolutely want to retain some of that learning. We know that for some young people, for example, we're now using much better ways and tools that are much more accessible to them in terms of communicating with them. We wouldn't want to lose that. We can get, if we're having meetings, just talking about strategy meetings, for example, as Vicky's just done, to be able for people to literally just switch on their computers and join a meeting rather than having to travel large distances. All of those things we absolutely will not lose as we go forward. On the other hand, we also know that we've got to be really careful about using the right methodology and the right ways, media, if you like, for the right circumstances. So, for example, we know that child protection conferences, for example, for parents, may well not be a good idea to have those virtually and not bring people together, because you want people to be supported, you want people to have opportunities to seek advice, support and guidance there and then from people they might be in the same room with. But we have, for example, trialled some hybrid meetings, so some child protection conferences or reviews of children in care, where maybe the child and the parent with the chair were in a room, but other partners might have joined virtually. In terms of support to our staff, you know that we've done a lot as a service and as a council to ensure we continue to check in, we continue to support our staff, but we also know that a lot of our staff really do want and value the peer support that you get from being with others in offices. So what we want to do as we move forward is build on all of that learning, but again, not a one-size-fits-all. We want to make sure that we provide the right sort of support in the right circumstances that suits individuals, and that's a piece of work we're taking forward. So I think lots of positive learning, as well as some issues we've had to address, and as you know, as we've reported in previous meetings, absolutely amazing way as a partnership, relationships have developed, connections have been made, and that is something we'll build on too.
Thanks for that, Beate. I'm going to have to leave the meeting, unfortunately. So I know, Celia, you were going to coming up with a comment. Do you want to take on that? And then obviously I'm going to have to drop you in just a little bit, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for dropping me in it, David. I'll take over
my
now.
Profoundest apologies. I think I also know I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule, so Lynn might have to intervene as well. I'm very sorry about this. Right, thank you.
Okay, I was going to ask a question which related to the one I was talking about before with Vicky, I think, and it's 5.6, and that first point about it was about the police who are required to report to universal service providers. And I just sort of was thinking about it and feeling a bit concerned that must be a bit of a weakness possibly in the system, because obviously the police are trained to a very high level indeed, but I'm just wondering how that's going to be checked by staff in social services.
When you say checked, could you say a little bit more?
Well, it's just, I suppose, I'm sort of thinking particularly about certain things I was involved in years ago where information didn't get passed back to social workers, and actually situations where the information was passed back and was incredibly useful. And if there's an area of discretion, then I think, I'm just wondering how that's going to be monitored, really, in terms of making sure that kids and families are covered and are protected effectively.
Okay. Vicky, I wonder if you want to pick this up, sort of the way we exchange information, how we're confident that we're getting the right information from police.
I guess it links to some of the discussion we've had at previous meetings, Celia, about the Wakefield Families Together arrangements. So you'll know that what we're trying to do is embed discussions about low-level emerging issues early in the life of a problem with schools and the whole network around children. And we're doing that through those team around processes. So team around the school, team around the early years, and I think you've had that presentation previously. So the idea is to try to get police colleagues, as everyone else, to engage in that kind of a discussion where we build the relationships on a small geographical basis with schools and other providers, and share the information that we need to share about children early in the life of a problem, not necessarily always requiring a social work intervention, because we know that social work interventions don't achieve and aren't really required at that level. The earlier help involvements are generally much more successful. So the idea is that low level information, as every other kind of low level emerging issue, is shared in that way, I guess. Does that help?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks very much. It was just something that was at the back of my mind, and I thought I should ask it.
Okay.
Right.
If I
okay.
So sorry, Celia. Maybe just to add that I think just through the development of the MASH as well, I think that's had quite an impact on the way people work together. And I think, Vicky, I'm right in saying that we feel that the relationships with the police overall are really positive, and that where we think that where police have information that where there could be an issue around a child, I think we are really confident that that would be discussed in the MASH otherwise, because of the work we've undertaken.
Yeah, we do. And the other thing I should have mentioned, Celia, is that in Wakefield we've also got something called Operation Encompass, which allows the police via our domestic abuse service to provide information directly to schools about call-outs that they've had sort of within the last 24 hours. So there are a number of means of this kind of information being shared. I think the issue that Beata referred to in terms of improvements needing to be made, and that Ofsted picked up on, is that there's some unnecessary volume in the mesh. So we're probably doing too much with this and spending too much time on it that doesn't result in anything tangible for children. And we could spend that time differently and more effectively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much. I think Stephen's got a comment to make, actually, Stephen.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Celia. It's back to the point Vicky made about the earlier conversations within the cluster, with locality areas, and the role that police play there in terms of early action, early intervention. Just a quick reminder to colleagues on the call that the police have invested here in terms of the team and the staffing they put into this. As part of neighbourhood policing, we've got a police sergeant and a mixture of 6 police officers and PCSOs that form part of their early action team. So one in each of our cluster areas, a link officer that can share information and be part of those early interventions, those early support interventions. So very much police in West Yorkshire backing up an early action and early intervention approach, and as I say, we've got a sergeant and 6 officers that sit within our children's cluster areas.
Great, that's reassuring, Stephen. Thanks very much. Andy, I'll bring you in next.
Thank you, Celia. It's a return to the virtual head. Beata has made there's a positive comment made earlier in the presentation. I just wondered if there's any update in regards to the governance questions that were raised some time ago, and whether or not we'll be having a report perhaps in the next session from the virtual head. How are things going?
if David was still here, governance arrangements, and really making sure that we have a governing body for the virtual school that complements the work of the corporate parenting committee.